Hey everybody, this is George Bashura with Shakedown of Thunder Sports, and you're about to watch the two Irish brothers. Go Irish.
How's it going, everyone? I am ND Sean of the Two Irish Brothers, and joining me once again for this next video, he's back, everyone. Mr. George Bashura of Shakedown the Thunder Sports, once again filling in for Ben. George, welcome back. It's nice to have you. Two in a row,
and I hope my shirt doesn't stink.
Yeah, I know. We've been at this nonstop for the past few days since Sunday, but yeah. I mean, okay, let's not make it a secret. We're filming still on Sunday too. So again, people, like we told you with the preview for Wisconsin, you know, if there's something that happens during the week, like an injury to a player or whatever, we're going to miss it. But one of us can try to get a video in there talking about it if need be. So George, this week is another big one for the Irish. Top 10 matchup. The Cincinnati Bearcats come to South Bend, and from what I'm hearing, it's all the hoopla is going to be there, possibly College game day, I think. I don't know that for sure yet. I haven't seen anything. But regardless, this is another big-time statement game for the Irish.
So let's talk about that right there, okay? College game day, imagine that happens 2 weeks in a row. What's going to happen to the sports world if game day is at another Notre Dame football game for game day?
It's mass hysteria.
The world, it's done. It's all over, folks. It's going to be chaos, mayhem, fire and brimstone. It's it's going to be here on fire for the entire college football universe.
Oh yes, there's going to be a lot of people that hate it, a lot of people that love it. It's like Twix, man. You're either on that right side or that left side. You remember those commercials?
Oh, I definitely do. It's either the one with caramel or peanut butter. So
yeah, exactly. But anyway, so big game for us. Top 10 matchup. The new polls just came out today. I know how you feel about polls, George, and we're going to get into that. But as it sits right now, Cincinnati, I believe, is number 7, and we are at number 9 in the AP poll. Obviously, coaches' polls are completely different, but myself, I don't even focus on the coaches' poll. But yeah, top 10 matchup that everybody's looking forward to. Another chance to make a statement for this Irish football team. And, well, what are some of your thoughts to start us off here?
It's going to be a game of high emotions. There will be no love for Coach Freeman. You know the offensive coordinator is going to want to take it to Freeman's defense and exploit it for leaving the program. Okay, so there's like this past weekend's game for Jack Cohn. This was his homecoming or his reunion with a former team. Brian Kelly as well, right?
Yes.
Brian Kelly used to be the former head coach of the Cincinnati Bearcats. So you got the Wawa combo this weekend. You have Coach Kelly going up against his former team, which on paper is not even his team anymore. Okay, just in namesake.
Yeah.
Okay, but closer to the cuff is Coach Freeman. Coach Freeman's gonna have to bring his A defense this week because that offense is going to want to exploit the Notre Dame defense.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And with, what we discussed in, the recap for Wisconsin, there's, still some kinks to be worked out on this Irish football team. And, but so far, all 4 games that they played at this point, they've risen to the occasion and they've made plays when they've had to and came out victorious, which at the end of the day is all that matters. But I guess one place to start with for Cincinnati is, their quarterback, Desmond Ritter. And and here's the thing, George, I and Ben do the best that we can to really know the former or the current opponent coming up. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it takes us a little extra time to familiarize ourselves with the entire team. But like I was starting to say, Desmond Ritter, I, of course, have heard his name mentioned on ESPN because he's expected to be, one of the next big quarterbacks taken in the upcoming draft or the draft after that. I forget what year in school he is. I think he is yes, he is a senior. His name's been talked about, of course, at North Carolina, the Sam Howell, his name's been talked about. So he's in with that group of quarterbacks. But so far on the young season for him, Cincinnati's only played 3 games. They're coming off a bye week. So far, they've been beating up pretty much everybody on their schedule. Took care of business against Miami of Ohio and Murray State, which any FCS school you would expect them to. And Indiana, that was the closest game they've had. But so far, Desmond Ritter, he's had 748 passing yards, 54 of 83 completion percentage, which is good for 65%. 7 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, but he can also do his fair share of running when need be.
Oh, it's actually we just talked about that on the previous show.
Yeah.
It's good to have a multifaceted quarterback. Your quarterback is the number 2 runner on the team, okay? In the rushing stats area, okay? With let's see here, 20 attempts, 122 yards per game, 50 for a loss. His loss is 50 yards. His net is 72, but his total, before you take out the minuses, is 122, and he's had a run for 26 yards. And believe me, Coach Kelly's well aware of that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, he knows his dual threat quarterbacks very well.
He's going to say, I'm going to raise. I'll see your Ritter, and I'll raise you my Buckner.
Yeah, that could very well happen. Maybe we see some. Maybe we see some more.
He's available this week. Buckner is available this week.
Oh, cool. So the status of Jack Cohen, as we covered briefly, the X-rays were negative on his ankle. Have you heard anything about Jack Cohen and his availability for sure next week, or are they still talking about it?
There's been no change.
Okay,
no change. So he is available. As far as I know, I've not seen any chatter otherwise.
Okay, well that's good because a game like this, you definitely, as much as I love Buckner and Drew Pine, you need the experience in a game like this because this is going to be no walk in the picnic. I mean, I started talking about Ritter and how good he is, but this Cincinnati team, after Brian Kelly left there in 2009, they had a few down years there, but they're starting to come back, and they're coming off a season where they took Georgia to the absolute last possible seconds, forced them to kick a game-winning field goal in the Peach Bowl. So this is a team that, they may be a group of 5 team, but this is a team that knows how to take top teams to their absolute limits. So this is not a team to be taken lightly. Not that you should take any team on your schedule lightly, but this one in particular stands out.
Not that this is a trap game by any stretch of the means, but feeling good about yourself after beating Wisconsin the way you did, it could quickly go there.
Yes,
it could absolutely go there really quick. There'll be no playing down to their opponent. Cincinnati's not one of those teams where it's a play down to your opponent. You are an even kill. If you're 7-9 in the polls, you're at the same strength. All it is a matter of someone else's opinion, which votes why you're a little bit higher than the other one. So to me, there should be no playing down to the opponent this week.
Absolutely. And on a quick note, George, before we started rolling here, you told me something about polls that I think everybody would find pretty interesting. So the stage is yours on that.
Polls suck.
I agree.
Polls mean nothing unless you're a gambler and you're playing money with a bettor with whatever outfit that's out there nowadays for your online gambling availability. That's all the polls do. The polls set the point spread for games, and that in rankings. The rankings do not count. I don't care where Notre Dame is, as long as they're in that top 6 when it's revealed Saturday for the college football playoffs. Being someplace in that top 6 means you're in striking distance to go back to the college football playoffs.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, and like we said, the only polls that really matter are the college football playoff polls. But as we all know, we got to wait for November for that. So that's the only one that matters.
Some people were talking about they wanted to see Notre Dame start further back in the polls to start the season. And then Notre Dame slides. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be careful what you wish for in some perspectives.
Yeah.
Okay, um, but it doesn't make a difference where you are. You got to play every game. It doesn't make which number is tagged next to your name. Go out there, play solid football. I talked with another show, and we had the guy from University of Rhode Island on, and the host of that show was like, "I'm surprised you guys aren't rated in the top 25 or whatever." And I told Coach, I said, "Hold on a second, Coach. I'm going to correct this for you." I told the guy, "You know better than to talk polls this early in the season."
Exactly. I mean, because we've seen. Look, I mean, look, with all the games we've seen, the upsets that we've seen. Yeah, do polls really matter? I don't think so.
Clemson has no place. If people want to talk polls, Clemson has no place in the top 25 with 2 losses.
And if you want to get technical, yeah, absolutely not.
There's no discussion there. They're not making the college football playoff. Their season, in Dabo Sweeney's eyes, their season's over because
Yeah.
there's no coming back from that record, especially with where they want to go.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, absolutely. Now, going back to the game, and we kind of got off topic there, but aside from Desmond Ritter, this is a Bearcats team that they do have some firepower, and it is honestly, it's kind of hard to tell with the schedule that they played so far. I mean, especially against teams like Miami of Ohio and Murray State, you expect them to win big. Indiana, that was like I said at the start, that was definitely their biggest test of the young season. But even then, Indiana, same with us, in that game, they outscored Indiana 15-0 in that fourth quarter. And, you take away that one quarter, it's a much closer game. But still, though, we got to go with what we have. But as far as rushing goes, you have Jerome Ford leading the way with an even 300 yards, averaging 9 yards a carry, which I don't care who you are. That's pretty – or I'm sorry, 6 yards a carry. My bad. 6 yards a carry, which I don't care who you are. That's impressive.
Yep.
And six touchdowns.
Yep.
And then they have two pretty good receivers, Tyler Scott and Alec Pierce. Scott has seven catches for 172 yards, 2 touchdowns. Pierce 9 catches for 150 and 1 touchdown. So early on, those appear to be Ritter's his two main targets. And it's kind of hard for me to tell with their defense right now with, playing two, and I hate using this term, but 2 weaker opponents. It's kind of hard for me to tell. So what's your take, George?
It's not a good measuring stick.
Exactly.
It's kind of skewed data. You look at the opponents Notre Dame has had, and look at the opponents that Wisconsin, still stuck on the Wisconsin game.
Yeah.
Cincinnati's played. The data they don't match up. It's kind of like an Alabama thing. You know what I'm trying to say? It's playing that schedule that you just like, it eases you into the season where if you say that Notre Dame had a game that should not have been close, the Toledo game I think is the only one technically that should not have been a struggle. They should have struggled against FSU because they're an improved team. You got to take last season's stats and throw them out the door because last year doesn't count between teams making games or not playing games and seasons fractured or whatever. You got to take that stuff out of perspective. You need to look at the here and now, and you got to just look at film. And right now, you can have your way with easy opponents. And as you let off the show, Cincinnati's has an extra week to prepare for Notre Dame. Do you think that they're going to sit back? We're going to sit back and watch the game and have some pizza? No,
they're working.
No, they're going to do their walkthroughs like they normally would, but it's 2 weeks of practice against the University of Notre Dame. It happens all the time, folks. All the time. Look at the schedules.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, I told you in the recap for Wisconsin that Ben and I did our season preview, and if you think it's hard to make score projections off of not seeing anything, this is another one of those scenarios where like you said, George, it's a skewed schedule. There, you can't really compare schedules, but it's just you haven't seen enough of the team in action to know what they're going to do against bigger opponents.
You don't have to use that playbook that you would play against Notre Dame. There's going to be plays that Notre Dame doesn't see on tape. I mean, you have last year, but last year doesn't count either. Like I said, it's brutal.
Well, Navy, yeah, I don't mean to bring up another opponent, but Navy does that to us all the time. There's a playbook that they have set aside just for us that we're not going to see on film.
Yeah.
So that's a prime example of that. I mean, but that's obviously another game ways down the road yet. Seeing the firepower that they do have on offense, I mean, that's something that you can go off of because they did have that same kind of firepower last year. So I definitely expect them to bring the house at us. Us going up against our defense, that's the main thing I'm having trouble with. I don't know what to expect, but I don't think it's going to be easy though. And nothing ever is easy. But the key thing is they don't have Marcus Freeman anymore, but they still are pretty fresh coming off of the defense that he taught them.
They're playing good defense, and with that said, it's playing 60 minutes regardless of who your opponent is. You need to play 60 minutes of football. There's no. We learned that week one, right? When Notre Dame almost lost, and then with Toledo, you go with that 3-man line too soon. That prevent defense. What does it do? It prevents you from winning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm looking at the stats. Okay. I'm looking at points by quarter for both teams. Okay. Quick comparisons. Cincinnati leads their opponents 21-7 in the first quarter. Notre Dame is 14-16. They're losing the first quarter. Okay. It's because they're giving up points. Okay. Second quarter, 31-14 again in Cincinnati's favor. Notre Dame 27-17. What have we seen? Notre Dame rough start to the first, and then they start going in the second quarter. The flip side of that, damn computer.
It's all good, George.
Third quarter, 27-10 once again in Cincinnati's favor. Notre Dame 28-16. Okay, so now you're looking and seeing numbers, okay? The numbers still don't shake out because of your opponent, okay? Where Notre Dame has played quality opponents, not to take anything away from Toledo, quality opponents on paper, 3 of 4 games, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The fourth quarter, sit down, folks, okay? This is where it gets ugly. Cincinnati, 50 points, and their opponent's 14. Notre Dame, again, not however it's gone out, 28-31 in the opponent's favor.
Wow.
So what's going on, folks? It's the first quarter and the last quarter that are your two. One starts your momentum, and one's about finishing. This is almost deja vu going back to the day of Van Gorder when you start looking at some of these scores by quarter. Those are the numbers folks need to look at and be concerned about. But once again, when you look at them to being 3-0, who they've played, those numbers are skewed.
Yeah, and it's not us trying to say that Cincinnati's not a good team. Of course, they're a good team.
I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah, no, I'm just explaining to the audience. We're not saying that Cincinnati's a good team. Of course they are. Of course they are. But George, you're absolutely right. When you look at who they played and who we played, there really isn't a comparison. It is very, very skewed.
You've played an ACC game. You've played an independent game schedule, a non-conference game, right? You've played 2 teams in the Big Ten, okay? and now you're coming up against an American Conference team. It's okay. You're playing quality games. Those games should be blowouts for Cincinnati. They should be blowouts.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a big difference between Florida State and Murray State.
When people start playing the same, if college football goes back to the way it was in the 80s, it's a different discussion because all the good schools played all the good schools all the time.
Oh, yeah.
There was just no fair weather cupcake scheduling. Okay. Every Saturday on ABC was the best college football you could find. You found all the best games, and the game has changed. Now it's all about preservation and getting to November and December in your preseason schedule, in your early season schedule.
Well, and also you look at those teams back in the 80s, we had a lot more big name schools as independents back then. You know, that's something a lot of people don't realize is obviously we were an independent. Miami was an independent. I mean, there were so many schools that were independent. I don't even think Penn State was in the Big Ten yet. I think they were still an independent as well.
Well,
so I mean, looking back in the day,
the game has changed, and in some cases, it's not for the better. It's respect. It's respect, though, when a team needs to have a bye week before they play you. And I know you got some numbers there, so bring them on.
Yes. How many teams, everybody was talking about this before the season even started, but let's see. Cincinnati, a bye week before us. Wisconsin, I think they had a bye week before us as well, if I'm not mistaken.
I can double check that.
Okay. But all I know is going on here, Virginia Tech has a bye week before us. I think North Carolina has a bye week before us. The only one that doesn't have a bye week before us is USC, and that's because we have the bye week before them.
Yep. So let's see here. They're funny. Their schedule's even more funny than the other one. So September 11th. Yeah, they did.
That's what I thought.
They opened the season against Penn State. They lost that game. And then September 11th, they won 34-7 over Eastern Michigan Eagles, a game they should win once again.
Yes.
And then the bye week, we're playing Notre Dame. Let's get the bye week in there.
So yeah, that's been a regular trend so far, and it's going to happen within the next 3 or 4 games, give or take, or 3 out of the next 4. So yeah,
year after year.
But we have the easy schedule. But anyway, digressing.
No, it's all good, man.
Before we get back to the rest of the game, here, George, is another message from one of our sponsors.
Well, hey, Vern. What is that? Is that one of them new Brahms Country Fried Steak sandwiches? Yeah, it is. They are good, aren't they? A real Brahms Country Fried Steak sandwich with tomatoes and lettuce and the works. How's them fries?
I love those old Ernest commercials that Jim Varney did all the time. And I told Ben, because I used another Ernest for Brahms one not too long ago, and I said, Ben, that'd be like me with you. I just take like a fry or something off your plate, or I'll find some way to scam people for more food or whatever.
I cannot remember the last time I saw a Vern commercial or even a discussion on Vern.
Yeah, Ernest,
yes.
Ernest talking to Vern, same thing.
Yeah. But Ernest, he did the movie. What, Ernest Goes to Camp, right? Is that the movie?
Ernest Goes to Camp. Ernest Goes to Jail. Ernest Scared Stupid, which was my favorite.
That's a classic. That's just, there's good stuff, man. That's good stuff.
Well, us doing this gimmick with our sponsor, we hope to one day build the show big enough to where we get a real one. But people have loved it so far. They love seeing all these old commercials. The first one I did was Boomer Esiason for Diet Coke from like 88, 89, somewhere in there.
Yep.
The melting football players.
Yep.
But anyway, getting back to the game, George. So, regardless of the numbers and all that, I mean, which they are important, it's without a doubt this is going to be a tough matchup. Definitely a chance for a turning point in both us and Cincinnati's seasons. One thing I want to ask you is, could you see? I know that Tyler Buckner's available, but could you see any scenario where Kelly, if he does play two quarterbacks, which you and I both don't like to see, could you see Drew Pine possibly getting some reps?
I think that's dangerous waters.
Oh, very much. I agree. So
I don't think you're playing all three quarterbacks. I think of maximum two.
Well, that's what I'm saying is, could you see Drew Pine stepping into what he's been doing with Buckner? Could you see Drew Pine being that number 2 guy?
No. I think that the number 3 tag is on Buckner for just protection. Because clearly you can have your 3 deep chart, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, the question for weeks was prior to this week is what's going on with Drew Pine? That was my question to everybody is that's the question I was receiving is what's going on there is he okay? Is he, it's truly a scheming thing. When you have trouble running, you got to generate some lightning in a bottle, right?
Yeah.
There was I can't remember. He made his first appearance against, it was Toledo, right? Was it Toledo?
Yeah, I think it was Toledo. Yes.
Yep. So he made his first appearance against Toledo, and that was practice. That was rehearsed. Okay, that was the play for the week was that he was going to see play time.
Yeah, because I didn't think for a second that it was just to take Jack out of the game to send him a message because he wasn't doing well.
No, and Coach said exactly that. He goes, "We had to generate offense, right? I had to generate some run into the game." So that's what happens, and now this is where it gets dangerous we'll call it a 2 quarterback system. Okay, because that's truly what you have going on is a 2 quarterback system, and you could say that I don't think there's a quarterback a quarterback controversy. I think there's a confusion at quarterback and how do we want to play football. That to me, it's not a controversy; it's a question of how do we want to play.
That makes more sense, I think. But speaking of that, this is a game too where the offensive line has got to find some rhythm and really get it going. I know we talked about this a little bit the last video. It's a lot of inconsistencies, but they got to try to find a way, and I think to put it all together because this is obviously all games are must win, but this one is a biggie.
Well, I was actually I get some laughter during the week. I see different things that comes across the feed.
Oh yes, you and me both
on that Facebook thing. But this was a great video. This one was going back to The Blind Side, and you have one of my favorite actresses, by the way, going out onto the field, grabbing the guy's helmet, and saying, "When I was in trouble, you defended me because I was family." She takes his head with the mask. She goes and grabs the guy and says, "This is your family. Protect him."
Yep, okay. Sandra
Bullock. And she grabs this helmet and says, "You protect him like you would protect me." My response to the post was, if BK ever went out onto the field and grabbed someone's face mask like that, it would be media fodder for months. Fodder for months.
Well,
and that's why you can laugh about it, because one, it's a movie, but that's the conversation that has to be had. It's whoever going into that left tackle position. We can't have Jack Cohn on his back on the turf.
He's been
He
on his
needs
back
to
too
be
many
standing
times.
upright. He needs to be standing upright and taking nourishment.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been on his backside too many times. And just to add on to the fact about the media frenzy, I mean, if they're going to go crazy over Kelly butchering a John McKay quote, then my God, think if he actually put his hands on somebody. Oh, stop the freaking press's new headline.
Can we talk about that really quick for a second?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
First of all, I was watching the game downstairs, and I'm walking away to go set up for the press conference. And I heard she asked about the team and how they executed. And when he said, we should just execute them all. Okay. First of all, Coach Kelly's not going to go and put himself in that kind of position where he's going to say, I want all my guys dead. Okay. This is the problem with the English language, right?
Mm-hmm.
Execute means two different things. Execute means taking someone's life,
Yes.
right? Or execute meaning game planning. Okay.
Yeah, performing, getting it done.
Here on fire. And when I heard it, and I'm in the press conference, and I heard the question come up, I'm like, oh my God, this is done. I said,
I saw it.
This is just going to get ugly. And I knew the reporter that asked the question, and his response was perfect. The world responds before they know the whole story.
Yes.
Okay, you gotta get the information, because that's going to spread like wildfire. So here I am, I'm looking up this quote, and I'm like, because I'm in the press conference and I'm hearing this, and I'm looking this quote up, I'm like, folks, stop. This was a respected coach that came out with this quote, and nobody had problem with it back then. Yeah. We got to stop being so sensitive. Everyone nowadays gets upset with every little thing they heard. If I heard when people talk about me, and if I got upset about it, whatever, I don't know if I'd be existing. Okay? Yeah. It's crazy. So people just need to chill the hell out. Brian Kelly's not going to go do something that puts his job in jeopardy at the University of Notre Dame.
Or his life in jeopardy. When he said, wait, are people taking that seriously? Come on.
The social media lit up. I couldn't believe how fast that went like wildfire.
Oh, I know.
But it gave him good material going forward, because the following press conference for the Monday press conference was, well, I'm going to make sure that I'm very clear in my statements, and I'm going to try not to quote anybody. So
I like that.
It's a little digression, but it's all part of the story.
Yes, absolutely. It's a part of the story of this whole season.
You got to protect the blind side.
Yes, and that's going to be very important come Saturday against Cincinnati, because this is no slouch of a team. But to be honest with you, George, I honestly don't know. I can't see how this game could go. I mean, I would love to see what happened against Wisconsin, but in all four quarters, not just the fourth. But how could you see this game going down based on what you know? Because like we said, this is a Cincinnati Bearcat team that can push top teams to their absolute limit.
This is going to come down if Bromlett has to punt. Okay, I'm going to talk special teams for a second, because I think it's very integral in the game.
Oh yeah, we covered this last video. Please go ahead.
Special teams is just as important as the offense or defense. Flipping the field is the task that you ask of your punter. Okay, what the defense does after you flip the field is a whole nother discussion. Okay, so special teams is going to be very important in this game. I think I won't give my prediction yet, because I have my prediction pulled up and ready to go. Okay, right. But I think they come out with fire in the belly. I think the defense is seeing how they played, and it felt good. Right? It wasn't a clean start to the game by any stretch of the means, but you did okay. You did good. The offense, they figured out ways to score after a slow start.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a team effort. If every aspect of the game, offense, defense, and special teams, if everyone's executing, Notre Dame comes out of there with a victory. There's too much at stake right now. You want the respect, and you got to go win and beat another quality opponent. We want to beat a ranked opponent because that's important for November.
Yes.
When you get to November, you want to go back to your strength of schedule. And at that time, it's always talking about, well, this team was ranked that, and now they're this. Well, it might be your team that put that team in doubt, that put that team into spiral.
Yeah, you might have caused them to second guess themselves, and then that progressed for them the rest of the way, or degressed, I should say.
It gets in your head. Football's a psychological game.
Yes, it is.
It's about getting to the quarterback, right? It's about getting in his head with putting pressure. It's about getting to the receivers, putting pressure on them, hearing those footsteps. Okay? And it's about special teams when they're called upon to flip the field or do football or do returns.
Yeah, absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely, George. You couldn't have said it any better than that. But look, if you're saving your score prediction, that's fine. But I'm going to go ahead and give mine based on what I've seen so far and what I know about Cincinnati.
You're the host of the show, so the host always has to go first.
Well, right. Well, no, I thought you meant you were saving yours for an article or something.
No. I was saving it for the end of the show. I didn't want to.
Okay.
I didn't want to reveal it.
Oh, gotcha.
I didn't know we were that close to the end, so I was like, I'll just hold off on my score.
Well, we are at 36 minutes, so we probably should cut it and get to the score predictions here. But based on what I've seen of us, what we're going through with all facets of the game, especially the offensive line and getting the running game going, and what I know about Cincinnati, I think we win this game by 2 scores, but I think it's going to be kind of like Wisconsin, that we don't pull away until late in the game. So I'm going to say the Irish, and you know me, I'm never going to predict Notre Dame to lose. What kind of fan would I be if I did that?
What kind of writer would I be?
Yes, exactly. But if we're able to get consistency and get things done and execute, then I like our chances of winning this game. And I'm going to say the final score will be Notre Dame 31, Cincinnati 17.
Well, this is like playing a 4th home game in a row. Well, Notre Dame was away this past weekend, but they're home this weekend. This is like it's nice having 4 home games in a row. So yes, they were in Chicago, but that's an hour and a half away.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's still in Notre Dame's benefit. With all the drama behind Coach Kelly, Coach Freeman, being former head coach, defensive coordinator, more recently the defensive coordinator spot. And Cincinnati is going to play tough because they wanted that college football playoff spot last year. And they're still aggravated about that.
Mm-hmm.
Cincinnati's not going to go away quietly. It's going to be a good game. But Notre Dame needs to win, and they need to win decisively, just like this week. And once again, folks, these are prognostications that are done weeks in advance. Okay? I have Notre Dame winning 48-24.
Interesting. Would I love to see that? Would I love to be wrong on my score projection? Absolutely. I would be so freaking happy to be wrong if that score came to be true. Let's hope it is.
I would have picked that score this week based upon the results of this past weekend. And yeah. I think they're coming into their own, and you're going to have to. I mean, when I did this, Buckner wasn't the factor. It wasn't even about Buckner playing. It was about just Jack Cohn being the starting quarterback. So, I think based upon how Notre Dame has played, that this pick is I don't want to say solid, but it has that potential.
Yeah, and look, if these scores don't happen, whatever happens in that case. But as long as we come out with a W, it's all that matters at the end of the day.
A win's a win against a ranked opponent, and you can throw all the prognostications aside. You know what? To get to 5-0, the season's going by quick. We're almost at the halfway point of the season.
I know. It's like during the summer, I'm like, man, I wish football season was here. And now it is here. And you're right. It is going by fast. It's crazy how that works.
I think that this team is coming along. The recruiting is showing that you can start freshmen. Prior to all those injuries, you had younger guys on the offensive line. You have younger guys taking different roles in different positions at a younger age, and it's all about the total player.
Yes.
So, in the end, I feel really good about this weekend based upon this previous weekend's performance on the field.
We're coming off some a big time confidence booster, that's for sure. And I hope the players see that. I hope Kelly Freeman and the rest of his staff see that hey, we know we can win here. We know we can beat big opponents. So hopefully that carries over. So on that note, George, I can't thank you enough for joining us again for back-to-back videos and filling in for Ben with his obligations. And don't think that you're just a filler, man. We're more than happy to have you back on with all three of us, and hopefully we can do that again in the future, the near future, actually, because it's always a blast. Yeah,
and same thing with me. I've been, like I said, I've had a lot of things going on personally that I've been trying to deal with. My kids first, and
that's awesome.
Having these opportunities to be able to, one, talk about Notre Dame sports, write on Notre Dame sports is one thing. And I'm upset that I missed you guys. I missed you guys when you came into town, but when Saturday competition day comes around, that's our football day. That's our game day.
If you're a parent, your kids and your family should always be number one before anything else. And you're talking to a guy who's not even married or has kids, and I'm a firm believer in that. Yesterday I watched football all day with my dad and had a few brews, and that's you can't replace something like that.
Yep.
You really can't. That was more important to me than a lot of other things going on in my life. So I'm with you on that, George, 100%.
So and I'll have you guys on my show at some point in the near future as well. And we'll do a roundtable pregame show. So,
it sounds good, man. And if you also just to everybody watching, if you want to see George's work, check him out at shakedownthethundersports.com. I'll make sure to have all the links to his website and Twitter page below. And Ben also does some writing for him as well, so you'll definitely want to check that out.
Absolutely.
So on that note, everyone, I'm ND Sean Fort. We took the numbers out of our names. I'm ND Sean for George Bashura of Shakedown the Thunder Sports. Thank you again for joining us. And as always, as I always say, God bless, good night, and go Irish, baby. Beat Cincinnati.
Beat Bearcats.